Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. It is Saturday, June 20th, 2020. And yeah, I just whipped out that comb. Why? Because I need to comb my hair back because I am a cocky son of a bitch. Gotta tighten up the mustache, gotta make sure it's nice and neat for the Lightning Flash update. Even though this Lightning Flash update may go a little bit shorter than usual. But regardless of that, I mean, I say that all the time. But regardless, I hope everyone has had a great week, as per usual. I know I've had a very productive week, as per usual. I always have productive weeks, especially since I just went back to work this week. In about 3 days, I start my online class. I'm not looking forward to it, but I will still do whatever I can to get the content up that you guys have been craving. Because I know, you just can't get enough of DJ Storms. You can never have too much DJ Storms in your life. But we're going to follow the same trend as we did last week. We're actually going to start off with the news, rumors, and reports. But before we start off with the news, rumors, and reports, we're going to get into the self-brand promotion advertisements as per usual. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate all the support, the likes, the comments, the overwhelming amount of love that you guys have given me, whether it be on here, whether it be on Twitter. It really does mean a lot. I greatly appreciate it. It's a humbling experience. Before we get into what we are going to get into, follow me on Twitter, of course, at HistoryMakerDJS, and I will teach you my ways. You'll learn the ways from the Antichrist of the IWC. You'll learn how wrestling works. You'll learn what's what. You'll learn the difference between an opinion and stupidity. I know that pisses some people off. Of course that pisses people off. My existence pisses people off. Okay? Of course, follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms. Add me on Facebook as well. For collaborations and business inquiries, please send me an email, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Like the official DJ Storms business page on Facebook, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, that is. All the links are in the description. Please go check them out. If you missed the rewind for WWE Backlash 2020. The link is in the description. It's not the greatest rewind ever. Don't worry, I didn't coin that cheesy-ass catchphrase. The greatest rewind ever, in my honest opinion, that goes to the rewind I did for WrestleMania 36. Pure, unadulterated rage. Unfiltered truth. For 2 hours in the rewind for WrestleMania 36. That was the greatest rewind that I've ever done. But Backlash, still a great rewind. If you want to go check that out, the link is in the description. Please go check it out. It's done very, very well. It's almost at 200 views, I believe. I need you guys to do me this one little thing if you haven't already done it. I need you to hit that like button. I need you to hit that like button, all right? We have goals. You know, I always say that the numbers usually don't matter, which they really don't, because I'm a success regardless. But I need you guys to help me reach my goals here. I need you to get this video to 20 to 25 likes. That's what I usually try and go for. And then on top of that, when you like, you gotta comment down below. You gotta comment down below because that's what you do. You gotta comment on your thoughts about the news, rumors, and reports, and then you gotta comment on the weekly show reviews. That's what you gotta do. And then on top of that, when you comment, then you gotta go hit that subscribe button. Because when you hit that subscribe button, then my subscriber count goes up. I mean, we reached the DJ 2K goal. We're trying to reach 2,100. We're going to see if we can do that by the end of the month. I don't think so. It's been very, very slow. The progression's kind of slowed down. But regardless of that, I need you guys to help me out in that regard. And when you subscribe, I need you guys to hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. It's the only time where you get to see this glorious sideburn chin strap combination and this beautiful quarantine mustache. And then, of course, you got the beautiful black hair. Pure black hair. Probably the best black hair on the face of this planet. I mean, of course, when I pop up on YouTube, you know, YouTube becomes a different place. YouTube becomes the best possible place to be. That's why you gotta turn on that bell for all notifications. Last but not least, Blue Riot Podcast. Shout out to the Blue Riot. If you want to go follow him on Twitter, go follow him on Twitter at Blue Riot with 2 T's. Go follow the podcast on Twitter at Blue Riot Pod. He was on vacation this week. We did not do the Blue Riot Storms review for AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite on the podcast platforms for Blue Riot Podcast, but we are going to get back into that next week. Trust me, it's going to be good. Next week's another productive week. I got a lot of stuff to do next week, aside from the online class, of course, the Lightning Flash update, back to my usual note-taking, and of course, Blue Riot Podcast. If you want to go listen to any past episodes of the Blue Riot Storms review, I need you guys to go on all your local podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be iTunes or Spotify or Podbean or Anchor. And I need you guys to look up Blue Riot Podcast, and you'll be able to listen to all episodes of the Blue Riot Podcast. Blue Riot Podcast has been doing great. The iTunes link is in the description. If you want to go check it out, please go check it out. So before we get into the news, rumors, and reports, I was actually challenged by one of my mutuals and fellow content creator, Wrestling with Heat. And he actually challenged me and a couple of other people to give him our top 5 favorite wrestlers of 2020. And I gladly accept that challenge. And I'm going to do it before we get into the news, rumors, and reports. So, top 5 favorite wrestlers from 5 to 1. I'm going to start with 5. And number 5 would be Keith Lee. Keith Lee, and it doesn't just have to do with his work towards the end of 2019. You could take a look at his work rate this year alone. And the fact that he started off the year as North American Champion. Keith Lee, you take a look at his match with Dominik Dijakovic and Cameron Grimes, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, and now he has the potential to be a dual champion in NXT. Keith Lee has undoubtedly been one of the best things about WWE television since the start of the year. Keith Lee has done so many great things this year. I mean, we got the Match of the Year candidate with Dijakovic. He brought Damian Priest to a great match. Cameron Grimes, obviously Cameron Grimes is great in his own right. You pair him with Keith Lee, you're going to get a great match. He had a very good storytelling match with Johnny Gargano at TakeOver in Your House. And now he's got the triple threat match with Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor. Keith Lee, at this rate, has arguably been the best North American champion to date in NXT history. So it's very hard. It's very, very, very hard for me not to put Keith Lee on my top 5 for 2020. Keith Lee has definitely come out of his shell, and he has shined this year. And Keith Lee, by the end of the year, Keith Lee could very well be the NXT champion. Who knows? Maybe he could be a dual champion. We'll see what happens. But Keith Lee, number 5 for me. Number 4 would be MJF. Now, MJF, since the start of All Elite Wrestling, they have been building up MJF very, very nicely. MJF has had some excellent matches this year, of course, with Cody and Jungle Boy at Revolution and Double or Nothing, respectfully. And then on top of that, MJF has undoubtedly been the best heel in the wrestling business right now. It's an absolute fucking fact. Randy Orton is great. Don't get me wrong. Randy Orton's great. I love Randy Orton. I think Randy Orton has been doing some of the best work of his career right now, and that could very well lead to a WWE Championship match with Drew McIntyre, possibly at Extreme Rules, which is what I'm holding out for. But Randy Orton, I'm sorry, look, Randy Orton, the Legend Killer gimmick, that was great. The 2009 feud with Triple H, that was amazing. But I don't think anyone can compare to MJF right now. MJF has done everything right. MJF has done everything down to a T to make sure that you do not cheer him. And the majority of the people have bought into it. They actually think that that's who he is. He lives the gimmick, and to be quite honest, I have been compared to Mr. Maxwell Jacob Friedman by my good buddy Sid the Nerdy Mark from Texas. Shout out to him if you want to go subscribe to him. He's on the road to 300. He's great at what he does. He's very, very underrated if you want to go check him out. I've been compared to MJF, and I do have to agree with Mr. Sid the Nerdy Mark's assessment on me being compared to Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF, he's television gold. You just put him on television, and automatically you're going to get an A+ fucking segment. It's an absolute fucking fact. Just take a look at it. And, of course, MJF, he will be your next world champion. By All Out in September, MJF is going to be your next AEW World Champion. He's going to beat Jon Moxley, and MJF is going to become the youngest AEW World Champion in its inception. It is going to be something special. It's going to be something to behold. So, from there we go to number 3. Now, I had trouble picking number 3 because 2 and 3 were kind of teetering. I didn't know which one to put at number 2. I didn't know which one to put at number 3. But number 3, I'm going to have to say Jon Moxley. Now, Jon Moxley has come such a long way from the days of Dean Ambrose. We already know this. He has been built up extremely nicely. He has been the top babyface in All Elite Wrestling for quite some time. He had a great match with Kenny Omega to close out Full Gear, and a very good storytelling match with Chris Jericho to close out Revolution. He became the world champion, and now he is over 100 days as world champion, and now he's fighting Brian Cage at Fyter Fest. Now, I put Jon Moxley at number 3 mainly because of the fact that there was one hiccup with Jon Moxley's run, and that was his match with Jake Hager, which wasn't necessarily his fault, mainly because of the fact that they booked that match and they produced that match so horribly. It wasn't Jake Hager's fault. It wasn't Jon Moxley's fault. Jake Hager's very good at what he does. Jon Moxley's very good. Jon Moxley's great. Jon Moxley's been built up very, very nicely, and he's going to bring Brian Cage to a great match, I am certain. Jon Moxley brought Brody Lee to a great match. That was a fucking war. And then, more likely than not, he's going to bring MJF to a great match, and MJF is going to beat him for the championship. But that one little hiccup with Jake Hager, that one terrible empty arena match for the AEW World Championship, unfortunately, that lands him at number 3. That lands him at number 3, considering that, obviously, no one's perfect. No one's perfect, and that really left a sour taste in everyone's mouth, and they kind of needed to redeem themselves for what happened at that specific episode of Dynamite, and they redeemed themselves at Double or Nothing 2 with the match with Brody Lee. So I'll put Jon Moxley at number 3. Number 2 would be Drew McIntyre. Number 2 would be Drew McIntyre, mainly because of the fact that Drew McIntyre has undoubtedly been the best thing about the main roster since the beginning of the year. Now, Keith Lee, he's been one of the best things in all of WWE, period. Drew McIntyre, he's been one of the best things about the main roster specifically. Probably the best thing about the main roster outside of the promos between Edge and Orton. But if I was to choose one, I'd definitely choose Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, since he won the Royal Rumble, beat Brock Lesnar within 5 minutes. He had a great match with Seth Rollins and Money in the Bank. Great match with Bobby Lashley. More likely than not, we're going to get a great match with Randy Orton. I'm actually genuinely surprised that Drew McIntyre has kept up this much momentum, and he's been booked fairly decently in his role as the WWE Champion. We know that Drew McIntyre has flopped numerous amounts of times. Not Drew McIntyre. We know that WWE specifically has flopped numerous amounts of times at building your world champion, building the top guy on your show, on your specific program, and they have failed at building that guy as a legitimate threat. I mean, just look at what happened with Seth Rollins. Look what happened with Kofi. Look what happened with Becky Lynch. They constantly flopped, and they were pretty much put in a position where they were made to feel just as ordinary as everyone else, and no one gave a shit about them. They booked them horribly. They gave them shitty opponents. They gave them shitty challengers. But Drew McIntyre, surprisingly, has had some fairly decent challengers. He's had 2 great matches at 2 great pay-per-views back-to-back. More likely than not, we're going to get a 3rd great match with Randy Orton. The main question that I have to ask is, when is that momentum really going to run out? When is WWE going to fall flat on its face at booking Drew McIntyre as a legitimate WWE champion? Right now, he's been great. Right now, he's been, again, the best thing about the main roster right now. I don't like the fact that he didn't main event Backlash. Matter of fact, I ranted on that and said that there's no way that you put Edge and Orton, no matter if you're building it as the greatest wrestling match ever, the greatest sprint ever, the greatest hot dog eating contest ever. I said that you don't put the WWE Championship on second to last, regardless. This isn't Shawn Michaels Undertaker, WrestleMania 25 or 26. This isn't Undertaker Edge, Hell in a Cell. This isn't a Money in the Bank ladder match. This isn't the Elimination Chamber. WWE Championship goes on last. But regardless, Drew McIntyre lands at number 2. And number 1 would be Adam Cole. Adam Cole, what can I say about Adam Cole? Adam Cole has been undoubtedly the best world champion out of all the world champions, whether you take a look at Jon Moxley, or you take a look at Drew McIntyre, or you take a look at Braun Strowman. Adam Cole's work rate and Adam Cole's matches in the last year has been second to none. You take a look at Adam Cole and you take a look at how well he's performed with the guys like Johnny Gargano and Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, Daniel Bryan, Finn Balor, Tommaso Ciampa. And now he's probably going to perform well with Keith Lee. Adam Cole has been undoubtedly the best wrestler in all of North America right now. 381 days and counting as the NXT champion. He's the greatest NXT champion of all time. It really is a fact. You can't deny it. Adam Cole's work rate and Adam Cole's length as the NXT champion, it's going to put him as the greatest NXT champion of all time. I don't understand how you can't look at Adam Cole and think that Adam Cole's the greatest NXT champion of all time. Adam Cole is someone that you build a brand around. Adam Cole, if anything, Adam Cole could show up on Raw or SmackDown and he could automatically be thrusted into the World Championship title scene and he could take over that fucking show. Adam Cole lands at number 1. There's no one else. No one else that I can put at number 1 other than Adam Cole right now. But that was my top 5 favorite wrestlers of 2020 thus far. Shout out to Wrestling with Heat. Go follow him on Twitter at Wrestle with Heat. Please go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Let's get into the news, rumors, and reports. And boy, oh boy, I got a lot to talk about on the news, rumors, and reports. We're going to talk about them first, and then I got the weekly show reviews after that. Wrestling Observers, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez revealed that WWE has banned masks from the PC tapings. I'm pretty sure you are all aware of that because that actually caused an uprise on Twitter a few days ago. They discussed how the company is still stuck in the Paleozoic era, quote unquote. Alvarez then revealed that even with an unnamed wrestler testing positive for COVID, masks still weren't allowed. Meltzer reported that if the talent wanted to wear a mask, they were forced to stay home. Not only that, but WrestleVotes came out and said that the current PC tapings were an absolute clusterfuck. Kevin Owens didn't even show up. And you know what? I don't even blame him. Here's what I want to know. I don't understand the mentality of Vince McMahon and the WWE management team. What the fuck are they thinking? That's what I really want to know. What is this godlike mentality that they have? Newsflash! You wrinkly-faced bastard! You're not God! You're not God. You're not above the virus. This virus has affected not just you. This virus has affected everyone. Globally. It is a global worldwide pandemic that broke out at the beginning of the year, and it's affected everyone. From major businesses, to small businesses, to sports leagues, restaurants, and movies, and malls. Everything. It's affected everything. So much so that certain movies for Hollywood aren't even premiering right now. They're actually trying to get the movie theaters in, New York and Florida to premiere certain movies. I think Mulan was one of them. They got that, and a lot of them are saying no. They're not allowing that. The essential businesses are just starting to reopen now. Malls are just starting to reopen probably in July, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. So, some states and places are worse than others. Some people haven't even left the house. Some people have been off of work. I took a 3-month leave from work. To look out for my health. I don't understand why these people aren't even taking it seriously. You know, at first, I didn't take it seriously. At first, a lot of people didn't take it seriously. I didn't take it seriously, but then I realized how severe it could really be, considering that I have a weakened immune system. So I had to take a 3-month leave from work. I just went back to work this week. I'm wearing masks at work. And the fact of the matter is that after this unnamed wrestler tested positive, you still don't allow masks. What was stopping you from testing for COVID right from the beginning? All Elite Wrestling was doing that. All Elite Wrestling even came out, they said, we've been practicing social distancing and we've been testing all wrestlers every single time. I really don't understand. All WWE had to do was continue to test their wrestlers straight from the beginning, and now that they didn't, now they're in this shitty type of situation, and now they are the laughing stock of the wrestling world. Alvarez actually came out, and he also revealed that Kevin Dunn, yes, Bucktooth Wonder, Timmy Turner, all grown up. Kevin Dunn specifically told everyone, if you want to wear a mask, then you're not a fan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you fucking sell masks on your site? Don't you sell masks as merch? If you're selling masks on your website for people during these uncharted times, why aren't you allowing them to wear masks? You could literally have these people, have the people in the crowd, behind the fucking plexiglass, wear masks to promote your fucking merch sales. And it just goes to show you right here that WWE, they're using this pandemic as nothing more than a marketing strategy just to make some quick bucks while the fans aren't in attendance at their shows. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. I do not know. And to be quite honest with you, nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing surprises me anymore. I don't even want to dive too much into that because I feel as though I'm going to rant. I feel as though I'm going to rant enough about more reports, especially this next upcoming report. I don't really want to talk too much about that. But the next report I got, Bryan Alvarez, he also revealed that Vince McMahon actually made a late change to a finish of a match at Backlash. Asuka versus Nia Jax, which was originally planned to have Asuka pin Nia Jax, but the finish was changed to a double countout. Bryan Alvarez stated, and I quote, "The impression that I've been given, I believe that the original finish was Asuka was going to pin Nia, and for whatever reason, they decided, I guess, on the day of the show to do a double countout instead." End quote. Why? That's just the first thing on my mind. Why? 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 What was the point? You really having a double countout to protect Nia Jax? Meanwhile, Nia Jax shouldn't even be anywhere near a championship match. Nia Jax shouldn't even be near a ring, let alone a championship match. The only reason you're putting Nia Jax in there is because of the fact that she is related to The Rock. Only reason. Well, what does it tell you? Seriously, what does it tell you? What does it tell you that you got Asuka as the Raw Women's Champion? You got all these individuals like Sarah Logan, who I believe should be brought back soon. You got Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, and Natalya. And you got Nia Jax in a Raw Women's Championship match. I don't even give a shit how well Nia Jax and Asuka work together. But I will give them credit here. The match itself, for the 8 minutes that it was actually shaping up to be a fairly decent match. Now, that's not saying much. That's not really saying much. It really does go to show you how good Asuka is, that she's able to lead Nia Jax to a semi-decent Raw Women's Championship match, but you threw that all away. You threw that all away for a double countout just to set up another match on Raw and have another fuck finish, have another shady ending with John Cone about to disqualify Nia Jax because Nia Jax pushed him, and then Asuka rolled up Nia Jax, John Cone got a quick 3 count, and Asuka retained the Raw Women's Championship. What's even worse now, is now we got Charlotte versus Asuka next week on Monday Night Raw. And you know for a fact that Nia Jax is going to get involved in that. You know a triple threat is coming. A triple threat is coming at Extreme Rules. Asuka will retain there, she's going to pin Nia, and then we'll get Charlotte versus Asuka at none other than SummerSlam, where Charlotte is probably going to end Asuka's reign. What else is new? I don't understand why you need to protect Nia Jax, of all people. You protect people with legitimacy. What fucking legitimacy does Nia Jax have? What legitimacy does Nia Jax have? Nia Jax is one of the most illegitimate superstars, period. Not just women's wrestlers, superstars, period, overall, that the WWE has employed in their company right now. Nia Jax has absolutely zero legitimacy. The woman can't wrestle for shit. The woman does not have any case of why she should be even challenging for a championship, especially after she just lost the Money in the Bank ladder match, which was obviously won by Asuka. And on top of that, every single time the woman's in a match, as it seems as though recently, every single time the woman is in a match recently, there's always some type of fuck-up. There's always some type of fuck-up, whether it be minor or major. protect Nia Jax. You protect people with legitimacy. You protect people that the crowd actually want to see. You protect people that you actually have investment in. You protect people with value. Nia Jax is just about as worth as much as the pigeon shit that you see on the cars of New York City drivers. And I'm sweating. Again! I'm sweating. Shit. Moving on. I got another report on Asuka, which I actually don't believe. And you're going to want to hear this. Louis Danjor, however you pronounce this guy's name, of Wrestle Talk. I don't watch Wrestle Talk. They suck. Louis Danjor. We'll just call him Dangor. I don't give a shit. Of Wrestle Talk. He reported that Asuka's push will reportedly not be affected by Bruce Pritchard's takeover of Monday Night Raw Creative. Vince reportedly still sees her as a top star within the company, which is why she's in programs with Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax. Yeah, sure, Mr. Dangor, sure. Asuka's push will not be affected. Am I supposed to believe that? Meanwhile, you're putting her with Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair? You're putting her with Charlotte Flair, so automatically right there, based on the track record, we're to assume that Charlotte Flair is going to beat Asuka. How is anyone supposed to believe that Asuka's push is not going to be affected based on your track record with Asuka? The only reason why Asuka's the Raw Women's Champion is because Kairi Sane, after this pandemic is over, she's not re-signing a new deal, she's leaving. That's the whole reason why Asuka has been given the world here. That's the whole reason why she was given the briefcase and why she was given the Raw Women's Championship. Because Kairi Sane is leaving, so they're shoving it in Kairi Sane's face. Hey, look what we're doing to your partner. This could have been you if you stayed. Meanwhile, if Kairi Sane stayed, her and Asuka would still be in the same shitty tag team, competing over worthless women's tag team championships. The fact that Asuka is merely being pushed because Kairi Sane is leaving, how am I supposed to believe that her push is not going to be affected? Kairi Sane ain't going to resign. Kairi Sane ain't going to resign. Kairi Sane's sailing away. No pun intended. She's sailing away. So as soon as she's done, Asuka's push is going to end. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if it ends at Extreme Rules. I wouldn't even be surprised if it ends next Monday on Raw. Asuka's push will not be affected, sure. There's one thing that I always say, especially when it comes to WWE main roster programming. Seeing is believing. And until I see it, I will not believe it. I would be surprised if Asuka gets to SummerSlam with the Raw Women's Championship. I would. I would legitimately be surprised if Asuka gets to SummerSlam with the Raw Women's Championship. Speaking of Raw, Mike Johnson of PW Insider actually reported that Mustafa Ali has quietly been moved to Raw and he'll return to action on the Raw brand. Now, the first thing that came to my mind is, who cares? Mainly because of the fact that, Mustafa Ali didn't find any success on SmackDown. Bruce Pritchard, he was running SmackDown, now he's running Raw. You expect Mustafa Ali to have any success on Raw? Raw doesn't even need extra talent. Raw's already stacked with talent. The problem is that they just don't know how to book them. Raw has a decent amount of talent. So Raw doesn't need a Mustafa Ali. Raw doesn't need Dominik Dijakovic to come over from NXT. He'll get lost in the shuffle. Raw doesn't need Dolph Ziggler, who was also reportedly moved. Dolph Ziggler was reportedly moved to Monday Night Raw because of the AJ Styles trade. I don't understand why you need to add more people to Raw if you're not even using some of the people on Raw right now to begin with. Look at Shayna Baszler. She hasn't been seen on Raw in a month. Look at Bianca Belair. Hasn't been used on Raw in over 2 months. So why is anyone supposed to believe that Mustafa Ali is going to have any success on Monday Night Raw when he hasn't had any success on SmackDown? He was barely even utilized on SmackDown since the move to Fox. There's one question that does arise from this, though. The one question that does arise from this is, what about the SmackDown hacker? Now, I'm not sure if that storyline has been canceled or not. I haven't really been keeping up to date with it. But the SmackDown hacker had reportedly been leaked to be Mustafa Ali. Matter of fact, a lot of people expected it to be Mustafa Ali, and now he's quietly been moved to Raw. I don't know what they're doing there. Does that mean that they pretty much canceled the storyline out? Or is the SmackDown Live hacker going to show up and be somebody else? I don't know what's going on there. I really don't know what's going to happen. At this rate, we're going to have to wait and see, because outside of Mustafa Ali, I didn't really have a clue who the SmackDown Live hacker could be. And matter of fact, I feel as though that was probably the best possible thing, that we don't know who the SmackDown Live hacker is going to be, mainly because of the fact that WWE really doesn't have a high unpredictability factor, and when the unpredictability factor is there for the WWE main roster specifically, it always falls under the mentality of worst case scenario. Because the unpredictability factor for WWE is we've been conditioned to think the worst for WWE main roster based on what we've seen from them over the course of the last half decade plus. So I'm not sure who the SmackDown Live hacker is, but this is probably the best thing for the hacker, because we don't know who he is. And this unpredictability factor could very well benefit whoever the hacker is. Now, I don't know about Mustafa, but regardless, I don't have any faith that Mustafa Ali is going to find success over on Raw. If he didn't find any success over on SmackDown, I don't see him finding any success on Raw. Now, I would like to see Mustafa Ali win the United States Championship from Apollo Crews, potentially. That would be interesting. So if he does return on Monday Night Raw, I would definitely love to see Mustafa Ali versus Apollo Crews, possibly at SummerSlam, possibly in the fall for the U.S. title. I'd love to see Mustafa Ali win the United States Championship. That I have no problem with. But do I have any faith? Absolutely not. Speaking of faith, all faith is lost, ladies and gentlemen, because Dave Meltzer reported that Vince McMahon is now taking interest in taking over NXT. Meltzer stated, "It's really obvious that Vince is taking interest. We had a throw-up, we had a build for the championship stuff on TV, and in particular, winner-take-all. The NXT and NXT North American Championships, unless they do a draw, they're going to do the unification on July 8th, which is head-to-head with Fyter Fest." End quote. Am I surprised by this? No. No, I'm not. Why? Because I already saw it coming. Matter of fact, I'm actually surprised that Vince McMahon didn't take over NXT by the end of 2019. I'm surprised he waited till after WrestleMania to actually start to take over NXT. I'm legitimately surprised. I legitimately thought that we were going to see Vince McMahon taking over NXT by Christmas. But we didn't see that. Vince McMahon taking over NXT reared its ugly head at WrestleMania when Charlotte Flair won the NXT Women's Championship from Rhea Ripley. Triple H even came out and said that that was a Vince McMahon decision. That was part one. Part two was the Drake Maverick incident, because I refuse to believe that Triple H had any say in getting Drake Maverick's real-life storyline with him crying over getting fired on Black Wednesday. I refuse to believe that that was Drake Maverick's, that Drake Maverick storyline was all Triple H. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that Triple H would be so insensitive and so vile as to use Drake Maverick's real-life emotion just to further a Cruiserweight Championship tournament. I had a feeling that had Vince McMahon written all over it, because Vince McMahon was the one that orchestrated these firings. He saw Drake Maverick. He saw that Drake Maverick was in the Cruiserweight Championship tournament, and they decided to use that storyline to further the Cruiserweight Championship tournament. That Vince McMahon decision. That was a Vince McMahon initiative. That was two. Those were the two appetizers. Now, recently on NXT, which we'll talk about when we get to the news, rumors, and reports. Now, recently on NXT, we saw what we saw on Wednesday. I had a feeling it was going to happen. After this pandemic started, I don't know. I just had a sick feeling. Combined with the two incidents that I just mentioned, I had a sick feeling that, combined with those two incidents and this pandemic, I had a feeling that the ratings were going to sink and Vince wasn't going to be happy, and ultimately it was going to result in Vince McMahon taking over. And that's exactly what we have over here. And it sucks. It really does suck. And I ranted about this. I ranted about this because I ranted about this a couple months ago on when we had the Black Wednesday incident. I ranted about this a couple months ago. And I said this, Vince McMahon, he just has this God complex mentality where he wants to be at the epicenter of everything. He wants to be at the epicenter of everything, and he wants all the money in the wrestling industry to go directly to his pockets. He wants to monopolize the industry. He does not want anyone else to succeed unless it's under his watchful eye, which is exactly why he moved NXT to Wednesday nights on the USA Network. NXT was fine on the WWE Network at 1 hour. Now, I didn't necessarily mind NXT on the USA Network, mainly because of the fact that Triple H was still running it, and we were going to see a lot of different superstars get opportunities that we didn't normally see, and I was happy about that. But now that Vince McMahon is fully starting to take over, now we saw the appetizers with Charlotte Flair and Drake Maverick. Now he's fully starting to take over and bringing in this sports entertainment-like feel. Now shit is really starting to crumble. And I feel so bad for Triple H. Matter of fact, I hope to God that Triple H has been talking to Vince McMahon behind closed doors about this. I hope to God. Triple H has been coming out, and he's been acting like a fucking yes man to Vince McMahon recently. I hope to God that that is just a farce. I hope that that is just a false surface, and Triple H is really talking to Vince McMahon behind closed doors, because this cannot happen. If I was Triple H, I would be talking to that old bastard and I'd be saying, you are not undoing everything I've worked for. Vince McMahon willingly will sacrifice the future and will put NXT on the front line in this quote-unquote Monday Night War shit, or Wednesday Night War shit, even though it wasn't even a war to begin with. And AEW clearly stated that they didn't even want a war. That's why they went to Wednesday. They went to Wednesday specifically so that way they didn't want to go, because they didn't want to go head-to-head with Raw and SmackDown. And Vince McMahon, like the fucking egomaniac that he is, he could not have All Elite Wrestling peak the ratings of Raw and SmackDown every single week. He couldn't have them peak 1.5 or 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 to 2 million and over 2 million. He didn't want All Elite Wrestling to build the reputation that Raw and SmackDown has built over the years. He did not want All Elite Wrestling to get to that point. So what did he do? He put NXT on the USA Network from 8 to 10. If AEW wasn't a thing, NXT would still be on the WWE Network at 1 hour, and Vince McMahon would be nowhere near it. NXT wouldn't have even been a part of the Survivor Series. NXT wouldn't have been promoted every single week on WWE television in the commercials before they went back to Raw and SmackDown. NXT would not be receiving any attention from the WWE main roster whatsoever. It wouldn't. And AEW is still beating NXT in the ratings. Now Vince McMahon's going to try and get involved. Now Vince McMahon is trying to have NXT beat All Elite Wrestling because he does not want any competition. Vince McMahon is afraid. It's obvious. There's nothing that I'm going to say that other people have not already said. I'm not alone on this. I'm literally not alone on this. I have not said anything that others have not said. I cannot say anything right now that I haven't already said. Again, I am legitimately thinking about just getting a tape recorder, putting a meal in front of me, and letting the tape recorder do all the work for me. I'll just sit here to eat my meal. I don't care. It's coming to a point where I don't even want to watch NXT. And that's sad. I don't want to watch Raw and SmackDown as it is. I'm just watching to make myself aware, and I watch it for content purposes. Moving on. I need a drink. My final report before we get into the weekly show reviews. According to Wrestle News Co., Jeff Hardy's DUI attacker could very well end up being Sami Zayn. Yes, you heard me correctly. Now, the report states, and I quote, I was told that the announcers and the production team were given specific notes to remind fans that Hardy and Elias's attacker had red hair and a red beard. This was mentioned during Hardy's promo in the opening segment, while Corey Graves tried to cast doubt that the attacker was Sheamus. It is worth noting that another person who fills that description of the attacker is Sami Zayn, and I was told that he will be returning to WWE TV very soon. On Twitter, Zayn has been playing up with his disgust over being stripped of the Intercontinental Championship. Elias and Hardy were in opposite brackets in the tournament, end quote. I don't understand this. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why are you going to have Sami Zayn target Jeff Hardy? What does Sami Zayn have to do with Jeff Hardy? Now, if it was Sheamus, that would make sense. If it was Sheamus, that would make sense. Mainly because of the fact that it plays up to their storyline. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy, they're headed towards a third match. I am fully convinced of that. Now, I did not watch SmackDown. I'm going to have to catch up on SmackDown after I upload this video, which I will. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy, they're going into a third match at Extreme Rules, which more likely than not will result in Jeff Hardy beating Sheamus under Jeff Hardy-style rules at Extreme Rules in an Extreme Rules match, and then Jeff Hardy will move on to something else. I don't understand why Sami Zayn would be thrusted into a feud with Jeff Hardy. Mainly because of the fact that Jeff Hardy doesn't have anything to do with Sami Zayn right now. Now, maybe if Jeff Hardy were to have won the Intercontinental Championship in the tournament, and then we were to get something like this with Sami Zayn, that would make sense, because Sami Zayn has been expressing his disgust over losing the Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn has called out AJ Styles numerous amounts of times on social media, playing up to that storyline and playing up to the fact that we could very well see Sami Zayn return to television, possibly after Extreme Rules, and we'll see Sami and Styles at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship, which I would not mind whatsoever. Matter of fact, I encourage that. I would encourage that. If Jeff Hardy were to have won the Intercontinental title, that would have made sense. And I would have understood that. But he didn't. He's in this feud with Sheamus that is currently still going on. So if Jeff Hardy's in a feud with Sheamus, why did Sami Zayn need to come in? And why did he need to insert himself into a Jeff Hardy situation when realistically he doesn't have any beef with Jeff Hardy? Him and Jeff Hardy have never crossed paths once. Him and Jeff Hardy has never crossed paths once. Him and Jeff Hardy haven't said a word to each other on WWE television. Now, maybe, now I wouldn't mind this. If Jeff Hardy were to finish his feud with Sheamus, and Jeff Hardy were to beat Sheamus at Extreme Rules, and then Sami Zayn was later revealed as the attacker after, that I would understand. And he could go into a feud with Jeff Hardy after Jeff Hardy finishes his feud with Sheamus, but you would have to come up with a reason why, and right now, I don't see any reason why Sami Zayn would have to target Jeff Hardy. If anything, Sami Zayn should go after AJ Styles after he eventually comes back. So I wouldn't even, I really don't understand. It's just a huge question mark. Why is WWE having Sheamus and Jeff Hardy in this program, and then you're going to do a complete 180 and have Sami Zayn get inserted into a Jeff Hardy feud, when realistically he has nothing to do with Jeff Hardy, and he should be going after the Intercontinental Championship because he was stripped of it, because he wasn't showing up to the PC tapings, and his title was held in abeyance. I'm literally struggling to find a reason why Sami Zayn would even be feuding with Jeff Hardy to begin with, even if they do want to do a feud with Jeff Hardy and Sami Zayn after his feud with Sheamus is over, and Jeff Hardy can get a win there, and he can continue building his momentum on his road to eventually winning the Universal Championship, which I hope that's the case, but with WWE you never know. But again, they would have to come up with a reason as to why Sami Zayn did what he did, and there's legitimately no reason. If you guys can figure out a reason, please, I'd love to know. But I don't really understand what they're doing there. That makes no sense. Sami Zayn should go after the Intercontinental Championship and AJ Styles. Moving on. Monday Night Raw review. First show on the weekly show reviews. Moving on. AEW Dark. That wasn't a glitch, just so you know. I'm not reviewing Raw and SmackDown this week. After the news of Bruce Pritchard being the sole head creative member of Raw and SmackDown, no way I'm fucking reviewing Raw and SmackDown this week. I'll review Raw and SmackDown next week. I already tweeted out my thoughts about Monday Night Raw on that night. And I'll tweet my thoughts about SmackDown when eventually I watch SmackDown. I ain't no fucking way I'm talking about it on this show. Not today. It'll save me 40 minutes. Save me 40 minutes. AEW Dark. This was an okay episode, I would say. Too many academic matches on the show. This was pretty much a show just to get a few people wins here and there. Pretty much advance some storylines going on Dark. Advance a lot of undercard storylines. We had Capital Vices and John Cruz versus the Jurassic Express. Very academic six-man tag. We had Marco Stunt get the hot tag. Big Enziguri and a tail whip. Luchasaurus came in with spin kicks galore. We had a chokeslam moonsault combination. Tiger suplex by Jungle Boy, but Cruz kicked out. We had Marco Stunt doing double suicide dives, taking out the members of Capital Vices on the outside. And then we had a modified tombstone cutter combination for the win. Jurassic Express get the win. Glad they're continuing their momentum. I can definitely see them as tag team champions by the beginning of 2021. Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler versus SCU. Now, this version of SCU was Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. And Christopher Daniels, he's been on a win streak as of lately. And now he's teaming with Frankie Kazarian. Scorpio Sky was in the main event against Robert Ego Anthony. So Scorpio Sky and his singles push could very well be imminent, which I definitely wouldn't mind. Right now, they're not really doing anything with SCU. So I definitely would not mind if the Addiction did get one last run, and we did get SCU turning heel on Scorpio Sky, and we did get a feud between Scorpio Sky and the Addiction gets one last run as the tag team champions. Possibly a tag team title match down the line. But this was a decent tag team match, probably one of the matches on Dark that wasn't academic. We had Avalon and Cutler taking over control. They isolated Christopher Daniels before Kazarian came in off the hot tag. Big crossbody and lariat. Leg drop guillotine to Brandon Cutler. We had a flapjack and slingshot elbow drop for a 2 on Kazarian. And then we had a slingshot cutter on Avalon. Celebrity Rehab for the win on none other than Peter Avalon, and that was it. Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler still looking for their first win, and SCU get the win in a decent match. The Addiction gets the win in a decent match. I definitely wouldn't mind the Addiction having one last run in the tag team division. Blue Riot, shout out to him. He actually pitched that idea, and I would be an idiot if I were to not give him credit whatsoever. Danny Jordan versus Big Swole. Another academic match. Great to see Big Swole. Swole came in, nice headbutt, cutter, modified GTS, and the Dirty Dancing for the win. I love Big Swole. I have been a big advocate for Big Swole, and I have been loving what she has to offer. Every single time we see her, she's progressed. There's nothing I can really say about Big Swole that I haven't already said. Love the intensity, love the charisma, and you know what? If Big Swole keeps up this momentum, I can definitely see Big Swole in contention for the AEW Women's World Championship, and she could very well be the next AEW Women's World Champion. If she's embroiled in this feud with Britt Baker right now, I can definitely see her taking the title off of Hikaru Shida probably at the end of the year. Chris Statlander is currently out with injury. Britt Baker, she'll be coming back sooner rather than later, which I have no problem with. But at this rate, Big Swole, again, if she keeps this up, she has a match with Hikaru Shida. That could be a fucking great match in its own right. That could be an intense match. I'm actually very intrigued by a match between Big Swole and Hikaru Shida. I would go for it. I like what they're doing, but this was very academic. Nothing special whatsoever. You could have skipped over it, but I'm glad that Big Swole is back on her winning ways. I love Big Swole. David Ali versus Lance Archer. Everybody dies, indeed. Lance Archer beat the shit out of some random-ass production crew member. Just came out, dragging him by the neck, threw him in the ring, and Jake Roberts is like, oh my God, what have I unleashed? I could literally just watch Lance Archer beat the shit out of random people all day long. I love it. Lance Archer wins with a blackout and the EBD claw, and that was it. Where does Lance Archer go from here? I don't really know, but during the next match, he actually came out. The next match was Musa and Sean Dean versus Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. We had some swift double team moves by Kiss and Janela, which I actually was very impressed by. Oddly enough, I enjoy this tag team with Kiss and Janela. It's probably the best possible route for them right now. We had a double missile drop kick. Archer came out, and he was actually being held back by Jake. He wanted Joey Janela. So Janela got the hot tag, big senton to both men. Front flip, axe kick by Sonny. We had a tope by Joey, and Sonny with the split splash for the win. And Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela get the win here on Dark. They are undefeated as a tag team. Archer versus Janela. Interesting. See how that works out. I'm not sure if that's going to take place at Fyter Fest. I definitely wouldn't mind it because, I love Joey Janela. Joey Janela is fantastic. I interviewed him on the channel. He's one of the funniest guys that I think I've met. I know you're watching, Joey. I know you're watching. DJ Lance Storms knows you're watching. I want to ask you 5 questions. I know you're watching. We had Red Velvet and Kenzie Page versus Allie and Brandy Rhodes. Again, I've stated before, this storyline with Allie, QT Marshall, and Brandy and Dustin, it's fucking terrible. I didn't give a shit about this match. Allie and Brandy ended up getting the win. I did not care. I'm not sure who the fuck cares about this feud. I'm not sure who the fuck cared about this match. I would stick with the Natural Nightmares. We really don't need another Otis and Mandy Rose storyline, especially since the Otis-Mandy Rose storyline has pretty much lost all steam at this rate. Lee Johnson versus Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears back in winning ways. Shawn Spears wins with the sharpshooter. He looked good. Don't get me wrong, but after what happened at Double or Nothing, I am finding it very, very hard to really get invested in Shawn Spears again. Matter of fact, it's going to take a lot to erase that memory from Double or Nothing a month ago. Matter of fact, that match should not even have taken place at Double or Nothing. That moment should not have taken place. That was some WWE main roster fucking garbage right there. A 3-minute match that fucking embarrassed Shawn Spears, killed all the legitimacy that he had. I don't know how he rebounds from this, but if he is to rebound from this, they're going to have to do something. Now, I'm glad he got the win here. He looked good. He looked intense. I'm glad that him and Tully are back together. And if that's the case, you know something? I definitely wouldn't mind if they recruit FTR and we get Tully managing a faction between Shawn Spears and FTR. I wouldn't mind it whatsoever. But again, it's really going to take a lot for Shawn Spears to come back from that. Brady Pierce and John Skyler versus the Dark Order. Another academic match. Dark Order win with the fatality, and it's great to see them back. I love the Dark Order. Dark Order will be your next AEW World Tag Team Champions. I am sorry. I'm sorry, Blue Riot. I know you're watching. Best friends are not winning at Fyter Fest. The Dark Order are back. Now it's time for them to win the Tag Team Championships. They're the best possible team for Kenny and Hangman to drop the titles to, and they are the best possible team to ignite the feud and to ignite the heel turn under Hangman. Griff Garrison versus Jimmy Havoc. Another academic match. Havoc wins with the Acid Rainmaker and Fisherman DDT. Skylar Moore versus Penelope Ford. Ford wins with the Lethal Injection and the Fisherman Suplex. That was pretty much that. I am shocked that they're actually putting Penelope Ford in against Hikaru Shida in the first title defense that Shida has at Fyter Fest. I thought that they were going to do Nyla Rose, but regardless of that, we'll see what Penelope Ford can do. I'm genuinely interested in seeing what she can do. And then in the main event, we had Robert Ego Anthony versus Scorpio Sky. Another decent match here. Sky got caught with a couple of drop kicks, Sky came back with a couple of drop kicks. Scorpio Sky has a beautiful looking drop kick. I don't know if you guys have taken notice, but Scorpio Sky, he's got hops. These are the things that I take into note, because Stuff like that, the fluidity, the height that someone like Scorpio Sky gets, it's beautiful. Scorpio Sky, he has a great look as well. He's in great shape. He's young. He's hungry. He's like, what is he? He's like 31. He's got like 10, 15 years left in the business. He's got a lot of drive. He's got a lot of determination. He's got a lot of grit. I like what Scorpio Sky has to offer. And if Scorpio Sky is to get a world championship run down the line, I really would not mind it whatsoever. I love what Scorpio Sky does. The fluidity and the height that Scorpio Sky gets on his drop kicks is beautiful. We had a 2 count only. Anthony came back with a Death Valley driver for a 2. Sky caught Anthony with a punt kick and a TKO for the win. Decent match here. Couple of decent matches on Dark. Overall, nothing special. Not bad, but the academic matches have really become tiresome. If anything, I would just keep it to 5 matches. I would keep it to 5 matches, and I would not overdo it. I'm actually starting to get into the same boat as Riot. I know you're watching Riot, and I'm starting to really get sick of the 11 matches as far as Dark goes. Obviously, we'll probably have a lot to talk about next week on Dark when we talk about AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite on the podcast. But that was pretty much it for Dark. That was pretty much it for AEW Dark. AEW Dynamite this week. This was another home run show, and they had been building very, very, very nicely towards AEW Fyter Fest on July 1st and July 8th. The show started off with Adam Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Natural Nightmares for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This was undoubtedly the best match of the night. Great tag team championship match. Both teams walked out of this looking great. And I know I actually saw some people complaining about this. One specifically was Wrestling with Heat. And I gotta talk to you for a second, bro. What are you complaining about? You really complaining about this? You're complaining about this. Why? For 16 minutes, these two teams, for 16 minutes, these two teams went out there and they beat the shit out of each other. They put on a great tag team championship match. They gave Kenny and Hangman another successful title defense. They're catching up on lost time. Kenny and Hangman didn't defend the tag team championships for 3 months. They defended it against Havoc and Sabian. Now they defended it against QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes. QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes, they're undefeated. They're 5-0, undefeated. Why not give them a tag team championship match? Why not have Kenny and Hangman catch up on lost time? You really complaining about this? And let me tell you something. This is coming from not just the biggest complainer in the wrestling community, but I'm the biggest fucking complainer on the face of this planet. You can ask any one of my personal friends and family members. I complain about everything. I complain about everything. Every hour on the hour, you can count, and I'm going to complain about something. And I'm telling you that you're complaining about nothing over this. This was a great tag team championship match. We had Dustin and QT isolating Omega. We had a Kotaro Crusher to Dustin. Hangman, he got the hot tag. Big sliding lariat on QT for a 2 count. We had a beautiful middle rope moonsault to QT by Kenny for a 2. QT with the handspring enziguri. QT does a very nice handspring enziguri. We had a tag to Dustin. Big bulldog. Snap power slams to both Omega and Page. Rolling senton from the top onto both men. QT with the QT special plancha to Kenny. Canadian Destroyer by Dustin. A buckshot lariat to Rhodes, and then a QT cutter on Page. All 4 men are down. We had Allie actually come out, but she stayed on the ramp. She stayed on the ramp. She did not get involved. Allie stayed on the ramp. She came out to encourage QT. Moonsault missed. Dustin was taken out. QT was able to kick out of the V-trigger to the back of his neck, but we eventually had the last call for the win. A great tag team championship match to kick off AEW Dynamite. I am shocked that Allie did not get involved, and she didn't cost the Natural Nightmares, but I am actually glad that she didn't get involved. We had a clean ending, as we should. Both teams looked great. Natural Nightmares, they looked great in defeat. And Kenny and Hangman, now they're going to Fyter Fest to take on the best friends for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Anna Jay versus Abaddon. Abaddon, she made a few appearances on AEW Dark. Abaddon is fucking amazing. Just want to point that out there. As is Anna Jay. Anna Jay has a very good look. She has a very regal look. Now this match was 2 minutes. This was pretty much a match that you could have skipped over. This was nothing special. This match didn't even go 2 minutes. Abaddon was no-selling Jay's offense, and Abaddon won with the Spike Rana. That was pretty much it. What really mattered is what took place after the match. The match itself was terrible. We didn't see anything of what Anna Jay or Abaddon could offer. Now, I would definitely do want to see more of Anna Jay. Abaddon, she has been signed to All Elite Wrestling. This is huge. I think Abaddon is going to be a major player. Abaddon with a character like that, that's definitely going to get the Rocket Pack sooner rather than later. I don't think that there's any way that you cannot put the Rocket Pack on Abaddon if she keeps up this type of momentum. They already have, they got a gold mine with Abaddon. I'm just pointing that out there. So the Dark Order came out afterwards, and they helped out Anna Jay, but they also handed a slip to Colt Cabana. They handed him an envelope. And next week, we actually got Colt Cabana and Brody Lee versus Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. Now, I don't know if Colt Cabana is indeed part of the Dark Order. We'll figure it out, but I don't know for sure. Now, I don't necessarily mind them adding a new member to the Dark Order, especially in Anna Jay, mainly because of the fact that it really does fit their motive. They're trying to make losers into winners. But ultimately, I can't help but think in the back of my mind that, you know, these people that join the Dark Order, where are they realistically going? Like, you have, like, what is it, like almost 10 individuals in the Dark Order already? You got Preston Vance, you got Alan Angels, John Silver, Alex Reynolds. You're going to have Colt Cabana possibly. You're going to have Anna Jay. Where are they going? I really don't understand. Where are all these individuals going? I really don't see them going anywhere. Matter of fact, outside of Brody Lee, Stu Grayson, and Evil Uno, what success is everyone else going to have? It seems as though everyone else is just there. Realistically speaking, Brody Lee, he could either be TNT champion or world champion. Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, they're going to be the tag team champions. Outside of those three men, I can't see anyone else in the Dark Order having legitimate success as those guys. I really can't see anyone else in the Dark Order winning any championships. I really don't see the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Cena. I don't see them winning any championships. I don't see Colt Cabana winning any championships as a member of the Dark Order. I don't see Anna Jay becoming world champion, women's world champion, as a member of the Dark Order. Realistically, everyone else is just there. They're just there to enhance the Dark Order. They're just bodies that are there. Brody Lee, Stu Grayson, and Evil Uno, they're the only ones going places. So again, I don't necessarily mind it, but realistically, what's the end game? What's the end game for everyone else? There's an end game for Brody. There's an end game for Stu Grayson. There's an end game for Evil Uno. But everyone else, I can't see an end game. The end game is just them being a member of the Dark Order. They're not going to win any championships. I really don't see it. MJF versus Billy Gunn. This was decent match, but this was probably the one match with two individuals that were booked on the show that you pretty much could have skipped over. This really wasn't anything special. It was decent, but it really wasn't anything special. MJF didn't really go all out in this match. He didn't really have to. At this rate, they're really just biding their time with MJF, which I have no problem with. They're biding their time until we can get to post-Fyter Fest Dynamite, so that way we can start building towards MJF and Jon Moxley for the World Championship. So we had MJF, he tried to run away. Billy went after him. Billy got caught with a chop block, and MJF isolated the left leg of Billy Gunn. Billy came back with a big tilt-a-whirl slam. MJF with the inverted figure four. Aubrey actually broke the hold. Billy hit the Famouser, but Wardlow got involved. He got tossed into MJF. And then we had Billy take out Wardlow. But then Billy got hit with a Dynamite Diamond Ring Punch as Wardlow tossed the ring to MJF, and Billy Gunn lost because of the Dynamite Diamond Ring Punch. And that was it. Decent match. Nothing special. Nothing you're going to go back and rewatch. And then MJF and Wardlow got into a brawl with Jurassic Express. And then next week, it was made official that we're finally getting the Lumberjack match between Luchasaurus and Wardlow, although I'm surprised this is happening because I was expecting it to take place at Fyter Fest and not on Dynamite, but we'll see what happens there. They did announce that Shida will defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Penelope Ford. Britt Baker was being interviewed by Tony Schiavone before Big Swole drove her away and dumped her in a dumpster. Obviously, they're building towards Big Swole and Britt Baker when Britt Baker eventually comes back from injury. Cody came out to defend the TNT Championship, and his opponent was Ricky Starks. Now, this is my first time seeing Ricky Starks. And I do have to say, he's very fluid. Very, very swift. I like that. I like that about an individual. I always take note of how swift and fluid someone is in the ring. His offense, very crisp, very to the point. And that's something that I really like about Ricky Starks. This is my first time seeing him. Now, the match itself, it was okay. It was good. But by the end of it, it really didn't showcase too much of what Ricky Starks could do. Now, it was enough to get him signed. He has been signed by All Elite Wrestling, and I have absolutely no problem with that. But at the same point in time, I really just expected a little bit more, considering that this was his debut. But he did showcase a few good moments. I did enjoy some of the offense that he had. A swift DDT for 2, snap suplex by Cody. Starks actually hit a superplex off the top. Big crossbody to Cody, taking out both men on the floor. Starks actually hit a very swift spear. I like Starks' spear. Starks is a very nice spear. It's very, very crisp. It looks impactful. I like that. So they traded roll-ups back and forth before Cody eventually got the crossroads out of nowhere for the win. And Cody wins another TNT Championship title defense. And he goes into Fyter Fest to face off against Jake Hager. Superbad Squad versus the Young Bucks. This was another very good tag team match. Matter of fact, the Superbad Squad, they've really grown on me. I didn't like him at first, because I didn't really think the partnership made sense, because Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, two different people. But you know what? I got no problem with it. I really got no problem with it. This is probably the best route for both men as we speak. And they have been doing some great stuff as a tag team. I think that these two, as a tag team, work very, very well together. I didn't think they would, but they've really grown on me. And I will admit that I was wrong about them. So, the Bucks, they kept the pressure on the Superbad Squad in the beginning before the Butcher and the Blade jumped the rail. Havoc hit Matt with a wet floor sign behind the referee's back. Sabian, he got the tag. He isolated Matt before FTR came out to keep the Butcher and the Blade at bay. So, they're continuing to tease FTR and the Young Bucks. Nick, he got the hot tag. Big back elbow to Sabian and a crossbody to Havoc. Ford, she eventually got involved. We had a Fisherman DDT, but Matt saved Nick. Assisted springboard DDT, but Nick still kicked out. Matt with the locomotion Northern Lights suplexes. Nick with a huge punt kick to Kip. Havoc, with a butterfly suplex. Kip with the foot stomp, but Nick saved the match. We had Jimmy Havoc get put in a tombstone piledriver position on Kip, and then the Young Bucks super kicked the legs out from Kip, causing Kip to tombstone his own partner, which I thought was hilarious. And then we have the double super kicks for the win. Very good tag team match. A big brawl broke out between the Bucks, FTR, Butcher and the Blade, and Havoc and Sabian. And FTR and the Young Bucks ended up standing tall. The teases are there, and I'm assuming that this match is coming at All Out. Taz and Brian Cage, they were cutting a promo, obviously getting themselves hyped up for the match at Fyter Fest. This was pretty much a promo that was just there. It was okay, but at the same point in time, they've really done all they could to hype up the World Championship match between Brian Cage and Jon Moxley at Fyter Fest. Right now, we're just trying to get to it. They've done all they could. Should be interesting. I'm actually genuinely interested to see what Brian Cage does with Jon Moxley at Fyter Fest. We'll see what happens there. But overall, this was okay, but it really wasn't anything special. It really wasn't anything that is going to bring the show up or down. It was just there. Next week, we also got FTR versus the Natural Nightmares, and we also got Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara next week. Le Sex Gods, Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus the Best Friends. They put their #1 contenders match on the line against the Le Sex Gods to get revenge on behalf of Orange Cassidy. Now, yes, it makes them look stupid, but at the end of the day, we did get a very good tag team match, and we did get another match confirmed for Fyter Fest. Let's talk about how he got there. Sammy Guevara, he got lit up by Trent before Chris Jericho took advantage using Floyd the Bat going into commercial. Trent was isolated before Chuck got the hot tag. Falcon Arrow for a 2. I was waiting for Chuck Taylor to say nobody kicks out of the Falcon Arrow. I was waiting for it. Sit out powerbomb, broken up by Jericho. We had Jericho catching Trent in the walls of Jericho. Sammy took out Chuck with a beautiful Fosby flop, but Trent got to the ropes. Trent, he then got rolled up with the tights, but he was able to kick out. Sammy Guevara with the bat behind the referee's back and a shooting star press, but Trent still kicked out. And then out of nowhere, we had Trent hitting the Strong Zero after Sammy got caught up with the cameraman. Strong Zero for the win. Best Friends retained their #1 contender spot in a very good main event. And then afterwards, the cameraman started to take off the AEW face mask. He put the camera down. Chris Jericho was in the ring. He was leaning on the ropes. Who was the cameraman? Of course it was Orange Cassidy. Of course it was Blood Orange Cassidy with the taped cut on his head. And Orange Cassidy came into the ring. Jericho put his hands on his hips. He turned around. And Orange Cassidy ducked the clothesline and hit him with a beautiful Superman forearm, sending Jericho out of the ring. And at Fyter Fest, it has been confirmed that we will see Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. Great Dynamite. We did have some things that weren't really too special in the middle portion, but by the end of it, we did get 3 great tag team matches, and we got Jericho and Cassidy being confirmed for Fyter Fest. Fyter Fest looks great. Fyter Fest really looks great. I am very much looking forward to Fyter Fest. I actually am going to try and get someone on the rundown for Fyter Fest. I'm actually going to do 2 separate rewinds for Fyter Fest. I'm going to do a rewind for Fyter Fest Night 1 and then Fyter Fest Night 2. I'm going to do those 2 separate rewinds, and I will pretty much take out the Dynamite review from the Lightning Flash update. NXT. We all know what happened on NXT with what's going on with Vince McMahon taking over, and I've already ranted on that in the beginning of the show. It wasn't a bad show, but outside of the 2 championship matches that we had on the show and the announcement of the winner-take-all match, nothing really happened. Nothing really happened on the show. So it was okay, but there's no way, shape, or form up to the caliber that NXT is usually at. We had Imperium versus Breezango for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Breezango. Now I understand this may be quote-unquote main roster garbage, but at the same point in time, I don't know if you're getting this vibe, but I feel as though Breezango kind of does this on their own. I don't know if you're getting this vibe, but Breezango, they came out to a dubstep of Imperium's theme music. They called themselves Emporium. They came out dressed as Fabio and Marsupial. Now, I don't know if this was on them. I don't know what it is. I feel as though it was probably on them. I feel as though they're allowed to do this and they get this approved. And they came out to Imperium's music, a dubstep version of Imperium's music, which was actually, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I don't know about you, but I was laughing my ass off. They did the same thing at Backlash of 2017, where they came out dressed as... Tyler Breeze came out dressed as a grandma. They came out dressed as a They came out dressed as a janitor. I don't know about you, but I just thought that was hilarious. So we had Eichner sending Breeze headfirst into the plexiglass, which looked brutal, actually. I actually like that use of the plexiglass. Breeze, he got the tag to Fandango. Beautiful power slams, enziguri, and a DDT combination. We had a big Tope Con Hero going into commercial by Fandango. Breeze got caught with a beautiful brainbuster by Fabian Eichner. I love Fabian Eichner's brainbuster. We had Breezango with the modified elbow drop 4-2. Supermodel kick to Bartel and Eichner. The last dance hits, but Bartel broke it up. Into Cher and Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, they came out. They got into a brawl. Eichner hit a DDT on Fandango after Fandango rolled up Marcel Bartel, but Marcel Bartel was not the legal man. So this was actually a pretty underwhelming ending. The match was good, but the ending was actually very underwhelming. I could have done without the Indus Sher, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch bullshit. But this was a good championship match. Not great, but it was good. And Imperium win as they should. So the Velveteen Dream was being interviewed, and Loomis gave Dream a picture of them as tag team champions. Dream says that this means nothing because the Dream is a solo act. Now, if this means that Loomis and Dream are going to be a tag team, and they could very well be in the tag team division, now, I wouldn't necessarily mind that for a couple of reasons, because it really brings back the tag team renaissance in NXT that's sorely needed. Because, look, you got the tag teams there. You got Breezango, you got Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, you got Imperium, you got Indus Sher. You're going to have Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. So now you're going to have Dream and Loomis. You got the Undisputed Era in there as well. So Dream and Loomis adds to the tag team division. I definitely wouldn't mind that. But at the same point in time, if these two are in the tag team division, then they could very well be thrusted into that position, and they could take over as the top babyface tag team. Now, I see another Broserweights relationship within Loomis and Dream, but at the same point in time, Loomis and Dream could very well be catapulted to the top, and they could end up taking the spot as the best babyface tag team in the division, and I don't like that because realistically, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch should be the correct team to take the titles off Imperium. But now with Vince taking over, I don't even know what the fuck's gonna happen. Knowing Vince, he'll probably have Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman team up, and they'll win the tag team titles. But if Dream and Loomis are to become a tag team, and this is what you left Velveteen Dream in NXT for, I don't necessarily like it because, again, you're pretty much shafting Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and I don't want them to shaft Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. I want Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch to succeed. I want Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch to be the ones to take the titles off of Imperium. I don't mind Dream and Loomis in the tag team division. It could add to the tag team division, but I don't want to see them thrusted into that top babyface position, and pretty much leave Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch in the dust. I feel as though that's unfair to them. Damian Priest versus Killian Dane, not special whatsoever. Win for Damian Priest, and that was it. Damian Priest rebounds off of his loss, against Finn Balor at TakeOver in Your House. I don't really know where they're going with Damian Priest. We'll have to wait and find out. Xia Li versus Aaliyah. I swear to God, I don't know how many fucking times we've seen this match on NXT television. And this is where some of the main roster garbage started to leak into NXT. Robert Stone literally threw up all over the ring. He was actually in a segment with Killian Dane. He looked like he hadn't showered in 2 weeks. He was drinking his sorrows away. He looked like he was drunk. And Robert Stone puked all over the ring. Aaliyah got the roll-up on Xia Li for the win. And that was pretty much it. I don't know where they're going with Aaliyah and Robert Stone. And quite frankly, I don't even care. This is literally like NXT's version of Sasha and Charlotte, where they constantly had match after match after match. And they couldn't fucking end the feud. Timothy Thatcher was teaching people submission moves in the background. Where does he go? I have absolutely no idea. And you know what? With Vince McMahon taking over NXT, I don't see him going anywhere. Undisputed Therapy with Roderick Strong. So it wasn't necessarily bad, but I didn't necessarily see a reason for this to happen. We had Kyle O'Reilly as the therapist. He was talking in a very nasally voice. He was disguising his voice. So Roderick Strong told Kyle O'Reilly his problems. He says that Loomis is always staring at him. He shows ink blots, and Roderick kept freaking out. So Strong, to make everyone happy, he said he was going to face the trunk. And then Strong ran away down the street. I mean, I don't really have too much to say about that. It's whatever. Adam Cole came out to address the challengers. And he says that Cross had a long way to go before he could step into the ring with him, which he's right. Cross should not be challenging for the NXT Championship. He says that he also has his eyes on Lee's North American Championship. Lee eventually came out. Gargano came out. He says that he doesn't care about anything but results. He doesn't care about stealing the show anymore. He talked about his win last week, and he said he's coming for both titles. So Lee took a shot at Johnny and his wife Candice. He actually goes, I picked up Candice, and I was helping Candice out. I cared more about your wife than you did. And she actually whispered something to me. She said, thank you, Mr. Limitless. That's the most action I've had all year. Let it be known that I love Keith Lee, and Keith Lee is an absolute beast. Now you can see why I put Keith Lee on my top 5 wrestlers of 2020. So Balor came out. He made his intentions clear. He said he don't wait in lines. He cuts right to the front. William Regal came up on the screen, and he made a huge announcement. So next week, we're going to have Keith Lee versus Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship. And then the winner will face Cole on July 8th in a winner-take-all match. Now, the first thing that I was thinking here, is I did not like this. Mainly because of the fact that this is probably just going to result in Keith Lee beating Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor. And we're going to have Keith Lee and Adam Cole, only to have Karrion Kross get involved, cause a double DQ, and he's going to go after Adam Cole. Now, I didn't really care that they were doing this to try and combat AEW. I was more concerned about what they were doing as far as the championship title picture goes, because I did not expect Velveteen Dream to lose the NXT Championship match at TakeOver in Your House. And I had it in my mind that we were going to have Karrion Kross get involved after Keith Lee beats Johnny and Finn Balor, and we were going to have Keith Lee and Adam Cole. Adam Cole and Keith Lee would go to a double disqualification because of Karrion Kross's involvement, and Karrion Kross would make his intentions clear to go after Cole at the TakeOver before SummerSlam. And we're probably going to get Lee versus Balor, and Balor's going to beat Lee. And Karrion Kross and Balor would be champions when they don't need to be. Balor is there to put people over. It's too early for Karrion Kross, so it wouldn't make any sense. However, something happened later on in the show. Karrion Kross and Scarlett, they found an hourglass. They found their hourglass shattered by Keith Lee. Now, I'm not sure if they knew it was Keith Lee, but they found it. They found the hourglass shattered. Now, this got the creative juices in my mind flowing, and I genuinely hope that this is the route that they go. They find out that it's Keith Lee that shattered the hourglass. So now what do you do? Karrion Kross can get involved. Karrion Kross gets involved in the winner-take-all match. I expect him to. He targets Lee, as he should. He targets Lee. Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee for the NXT North American Championship. If you want to give Karrion Kross a championship, give him the North American Championship. Put him against Lee. You have Keith Lee, who is pretty much his size, bigger. He's bigger than Karrion Kross. And you really expect Karrion Kross not to do to Adam Cole what he did to Tommaso Ciampa? If he beat Tommaso Ciampa in 6 minutes, how do you expect him not to do that to Adam Cole? So you put him against Lee, who's a more believable contender. You put him against Lee. You have him win the North American title from Keith Lee. What do you do with Adam Cole? You put him against Finn Balor. Finn Balor's wins this year, again, look at who he's beaten. He's beaten Cameron Grimes, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, Alexander Wolf, Fabian Eichner, Ilya Dragunov. He's beaten everyone. He's beaten so many people that he's accumulated the legitimacy to be challenging for the NXT Championship, let alone the North American Championship. So you do Finn Balor versus Adam Cole. Finn Balor's there to put people over. You have Cole beat Balor at the TakeOver before SummerSlam. Keith Lee loses the North American title to Karrion Kross. Now Keith Lee can gain some more momentum, and then Keith Lee in the fall takes the title off of Adam Cole. Then Keith Lee goes into 2021 as the NXT champion. Karrion Kross is the North American champion. If you want to, you can revisit a winner-take-all match down the line between Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, and you could have Karrion Kross and Keith Lee for both the NXT North American and the NXT Championship. Boom. Either way, Karrion Kross should not be the one to take the title off of Adam Cole. That would be a terrible idea. We need to have Karrion Kross go out there, attack Keith Lee, because now Keith Lee smashed the hourglass. Now Karrion Kross has a legitimate claim to be pissed at Keith Lee. Now he can take the North American title from Keith Lee. Finn Balor and Adam Cole is the correct route to go. Cole retains the title. Simple as that. Dakota Kai versus Kaden Carter. Nothing really too special here. We had a modified Rings of Saturn for the win here. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, if they are being built up to take the titles off of Sasha and Bayley, I definitely wouldn't mind that. Mainly because of the fact that that's probably the best route that they can go for the women's tag team titles if they're not going to do Shotzi and Tegan. Now, even though Raquel Gonzalez is terrible, I'd much rather see Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai as the tag team champions than the Iconics. Now, I'm not sure if they are really building them up for the tag team titles, or they're building Dakota Kai up for Io Shirai, and Io Shirai's first challenger is going to be Dakota. I don't know. Mercedes Martinez will be coming back soon. Can't wait for that. Bronson Reed and Leon Ruff. This lasted about 30 seconds. Big splash for the win, and he called out Karrion Kross for next week. Bronson Reed versus Karrion Kross. That should be a great Haas fight. Priest versus Grimes was also made for next week after Cameron Grimes slashed Damian Priest tires. Santos Escobar, Raul Mendoza, and Joaquin Wilde came out. They all look legit. They all came out to explain what was going on. Santos Escobar, he said that El Hijo del Fantasma would have to come to an end when NXT was going to be his new home. He says that he is the leader of leaders, and he is going to lead everyone. They're going to lead everyone. Legado del Fantasma will lead everyone into the future. So Drake came out. He says he has more guts than brains. He tried to fight all three men, but the numbers were able to catch up to him. We had a phantom driver through the table, off a platform through a table, and it looked brutal for both men. Now, all three of them, Raul Mendoza, Joaquin Wilde, and Santos Escobar, they look awesome, but we didn't get the why. We didn't get the answer as to why they're doing this, so I still want to know why they're doing this. We'll probably find that out later on. Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart versus Bayley and Sasha. This was probably the best thing on the show. This was a very good women's tag team championship match. Now, the titles mean nothing. The titles are terrible, but I love what Sasha and Bayley did here with Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox. Shotzi, she got the hot tag. She came in, sling blade, bulldog, super kick, back suplex for a 2. We had a big Meteora by Sasha to Shotzi off the apron, which looked brutal there. Big Hurricane Rana to Bayley. We had Cannon Boars by Shotzi and Tegan to Bayley and Sasha. Big choke slam by Miss Lady Kane to Sasha onto Bayley. Crossbody by Shotzi. Big Shiranui, but Sasha broke up that pinfall. We had a big drop kick by Shotzi. Sasha locked in the bank statement, but Shotzi reversed it into the cattle mutilation. Bayley brought in a chair, distracted the ref, and while the ref was dealing with the chair, Bayley then flipped Shotzi over into the bank statement, and Shotzi taps out. Very good match. I did not think that they were going to put Shotzi and Tegan against Bayley and Sasha this early, considering they were probably the best team to take the titles off of them. but I'm actually happy that we got this match. This was actually a very good match, and then afterwards, I don't understand what this was from. Io Shirai came out and took out both women, and then Io stood tall. I don't like the fact that they did this. Mainly because of the fact that I understand that the women's tag team titles, they allow you to go to all three brands. I understand that. But at the same point in time, I don't like how they're pretty much teasing a feud between Sasha, Bayley, and Io. And you're probably going to have either Sasha or Bayley go up against Io. I don't understand why you're doing that. I don't understand why you're doing that. And in my eyes, it could only be because of the fact that Vince wants more main roster stars on NXT to try and boost up the ratings. It wasn't a bad show, but at the same point in time, you know that the downfall of NXT is coming. The downfall of NXT is coming. And mainly because of the fact that Vince McMahon just can't handle the fact that AEW is beating NXT in the ratings, and he wants to try and boost the ratings to try and kill All Elite Wrestling. Simple as that. As far as the SmackDown review goes, I was not watching SmackDown, like I already said. I was at my grandmother's. I was at my grandmother's having some baked clams, mozzarella sticks, some pasta with shrimp. I had some wafer cookies and cheesecake for dessert. Fantastic. I wish I could have that every single week. If I had that every single week, I wouldn't even watch SmackDown. I'd take baked clams over Braun Strowman any day of the week. I'll take some mozzarella sticks, dip some marinara sauce in. I think I'm gonna have some baked clam. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get a tape recorder, and when I do eventually get that tape recorder, I'm gonna get some baked clams. I'll get some baked clams, and I'm going to put some baked clams with some mussels and some pasta with some grilled shrimp. Season that up nice and crispy, and grill it to a crisp. And I'm gonna have that in front of me with the tape recorder, and I'll let the tape recorder do all the work for me. And you're gonna watch me eat a nice seafood dinner. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna eat a nice seafood lunch or dinner while we are having the Lightning Flash update take place. That's what I'm gonna do. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. Hope I was able to entertain each and every single one of you. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into the video. Please check out all the links in the description. As per usual, like, comment, and subscribe. Do all that. And I will be back next week, next Saturday, of course, for the Lightning Flash Update next week. I'll be back to my normal BS. I'll be back to the Blue Riot podcast with the Blue Riot. I got the rundown for Fyter Fest coming up. Got my online class coming up. It's going to be a very productive summer for the DJ Storms brand and for myself included. I hope you'll stick around with me for the ride. I'm DJ Storm. This has been the Lightning Flash Update. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you want to talk to me, you already know where to find me. Check out all my social media links. And you just got to be careful. You got to tread carefully with me. Because if you don't, may God have mercy on your soul, because you'll be at the mercy of the Antichrist. You guys have a great weekend.